On August 20th, 1911, a storm was brewing near the small, isolated village of Antler, North Dakota. It was 6:30 p.m. on a Sunday evening, and there were several reports of an eerie funnel just west of town. Before the tornado had actually reached the village of Antler, it struck Manning Grove on Antler Creek, where several families were picnicking. Unfortunately, dozens were injured and 2 were killed. Thankfully, the tornado just barely dodged the village of Antler. However, what's unique about this tornado is that it was captured on film by several different photographers. One particular photo, captured by E.S. Carlin, is one of the most eerie tornado photos I have ever seen. I think the reason why this photo is so terrifying is, one, yeah, there's a massive tornado there and it's scary as heck, but also this church, something about old churches are just kind of creepy, especially the churches that are just like basic and wooden. I don't know, they give me the creeps. And when you combine them together, like in this photograph, yeah, scary. And it wasn't the only terrifying photo of the Antler tornado. This other photo, captured by W.H. Wagner, shows the tornado as it approached town. Also very eerie. In the end, 4 people would perish from the Antler, North Dakota tornado. It's a surprisingly well-documented tornado for, one, how far north it is. Like, tornadoes usually don't occur that far north. And 2, because Antler, North Dakota is such a small, isolated village. But the photos of this tornado are definitely some of the creepiest ever taken. And that's the topic of today's video. We're going to go over some of history's most horrifying tornado photos. I've said this many times on the channel before, but old tornado photographs are so terrifying. In fact, the older you get, the more terrifying they are. We're not only talking about the tornado photos, we're also going to discuss the locations in which these photos were taken. We're going to see if there's any remnants, any similarities from today and 50 plus years ago. I've got like 10 terrifying tornado photos to discuss, but before we get to that, a quick word from today's video sponsor, American Financing. You know what sucks? Credit cards. I hate credit cards. Credit cards are the worst. They're a trap. Americans all over America are struggling because of credit card debt. It's terrible. And since, there's been so much inflation lately, prices have been going way up, people are relying on credit cards just to cover basic expenses. It's a not great situation. But if you're a homeowner, there is a solution, and that's American Financing. American Financing can help homeowners pay off high interest debt by using their home's equity. That means you can take your credit card debt and then roll it into a lower interest mortgage and start saving right away. Interest rates make a huge difference. If you can get a lower interest rate, that's money. American Financing is a family-owned mortgage lender that's been around for 25 years. They're licensed in all 50 states, and their mortgage consultants are salary-based. They're not commissioned. That means that there's no pressure for them, no incentive for them to push a loan on you that doesn't make sense. And the numbers speak for themselves. Their customers, on average, save $800 a month just by letting American Financing help them restructure their debt. Best of all, there's no upfront cost or hidden fees to find out how much you can save. Plus, you may be able to close in as fast as 10 days and delay up to 2 mortgage payments, giving you more breathing room right away. They've already helped hundreds of thousands of homeowners create meaningful savings, and it shows. Just check their Google reviews. Call American Financing today at 866-891-7848. That's 866-891-7848, or visit americanfinancing.net/swiggle. Seriously, stop stressing. Let American Financing help you breathe a little easier. Thank you so much to American Financing for sponsoring the video. So going back to that Antler, North Dakota scary church tornado photo, can we find this location today? So right here is the town on Google Maps, and seriously, look how close this is to Canada. Like, you could walk to Canada in an hour. Anyway, here is Antler, North Dakota. Shouldn't be too hard to find this photo's location. This town square cracks me up. It's still kind of a creepy, this building right here, it's still a pretty creepy town. Well, shockingly, it didn't take that long at all to find the church that is featured in the tornado photo. It's located right here, and it's got similar vibes to the one that was actually featured way back in the day. I was also able to confirm this photo through the Antler, North Dakota Historical Society. They did a post on it on Facebook. The question is, do any of these other buildings still exist? Maybe. It's kind of hard to tell because there's so much, trees everywhere these days. But this particular home does look like it probably exists, maybe in the photo. I don't know. Definitely a terrifying photo, but we're moving on to our next photograph. Next up is this iconic image of the 1966 Enid, Oklahoma F2 tornado. A very eerie, a very creepy image that apparently has actually inspired a lot of tornado enthusiasts. Apparently this photo was in a lot of books back in the day, and people would look at this photo and be like, dang, that is terrifying. What is that? I want to know more about it. And it was captured by a local named Leo Ainsworth. Now, what's up with the red color? I don't know why some versions of this are red. I don't know if someone put a filter on that back in the 60s or 70s to give it a scarier look. Maybe it was a film thing. I have no idea. But it definitely intensifies the scare factor. There's also different versions of this photo. Like, there's some really accurate versions of this photo that look really detailed and close up that are actually pretty sweet. And even more creepy than the most famous version. Was actually part of a larger outbreak, one that featured the June 8th, 1966 Topeka F5 tornado, which was a very significant event, which also had some pretty eerie photos. But this tornado wasn't nearly as bad. It did cause quite a bit of damage though. I mean, looking at this aerial photograph, you can see at this house right here, I mean, it's almost completely destroyed. It did receive an F2 rating, and there were 0 fatalities and 6 injuries. In terms of location of this photo, I think it's going to be a little difficult to find, maybe, potentially, but I did find a post on Twitter that stated Leo Ainsworth lived at the corner of Crestwood and Kansas Avenue in North Enid, and that he was facing east at the time the photo was taken. Alright, so we're hopping in to Google Maps, and here we go. Here's the corner of Kansas and Crestwood. Of course, it has to be on Kansas Ave, because it's a tornado. Kansas Ave in Oklahoma is not a tornado safe area, people. And if he's facing east, it's over here. And to be honest, let me get like a slightly. To be honest, I think this is kind of the right vibe, slightly. It does. Let's go 2013. It's a little closer to 1966. It's kind of a similar vibe because you had some electrical stuff back there. I mean, obviously there's more trees now, but I don't know. It could be around this area. Yeah, great photo. Definitely one of my favorites. Next up is this photo by Eric Lance of the June 13th, 1968 Tracy, Minnesota F5 tornado. At around 7 p.m. on June 13th, 1968, an extremely powerful tornado struck the town of Tracy, Minnesota.
The little farm community of Tracy, Minnesota is digging through the rubble today, attempting to piece together memories of what has been for it the worst Flag Day in its history.
This tornado destroyed well over 100 homes and 5 businesses. Some of the most insane damage from this tornado includes a steel I-beam, one of these things, that was thrown over 2 miles away. There was also a heavy train boxcar that was thrown over a block away. Unfortunately, in the end, 9 people died and over 100 were injured. One of the individuals that witnessed this tornado was Eric Lance. He captured this photo right here of the tornado. It's one of the most iconic tornado photos of all time. Now, when you usually think of an F5 tornado, you don't really think of a tornado that looks quite like this. This almost looks like a mix between a cone and a rope tornado. A very dynamic tornado. Now, I don't know if this photo is more scary than it is actually just kind of cool looking. Eric Lance wasn't actually from Tracy, Minnesota. He is from Walnut Grove. Is Walnut Grove is that the Little House on the Prairie town? And he was only 16 years old when he captured this photograph. The photo is featured in the Walnut Grove Tribune, and it later won an award as one of the best news photos from that year. A very much iconic photo, especially for the time. I mean, when you think about it, there wasn't very many photos of tornadoes at that time, and if there were, it probably either looked like a wedge or like a cone. Seeing something like this, something that's so dynamic and almost rope-like, definitely attracted a lot of interest. So I want to find the location of where this photo was taken, but I also read something on Reddit that stated that there was still damage from this tornado, remnants from this tornado out in the woods somewhere. So I'm going to try to find that as well. So from what I could gather, the photo was taken somewhere off of the Laurel Ingalls Wilder Historic Highway, aka Highway 14. I knew that there was a connection to Little House on the Prairie when I saw Walnut Grove. I used to watch that when I was a kid. My mom had like the VHS tapes. We weren't allowed to watch much, but we could watch Little House on the Prairie. Anyway, it was taken somewhere around the Tracy Country Club on this road. So somewhere along here. Obviously, it's hard to pinpoint the exact location because there's no buildings in the photo. It's just an open field. So there's no way I'm going to be able to track the exact location. But it was somewhere along this highway. In terms of damage out in the forest, where on earth is the forest? Now, the post did mention some train tracks that were involved near the damage, and of course, we know about the boxcars being thrown blocks away, so I'm gonna look near some railroad tracks in some woods. Here's some wreckage kinda near some railroad tracks in the forest. I don't know. maybe this is just nothing. What I do know is there's actually an interesting plaque in the town of Tracy. Apparently there's a tree here that was twisted by the tornado, and they left its trunk, and the trunk was like a little memorial to the day, but then the trunk eventually rotted away, so they replaced it with this. So that's pretty cool. We're moving on to the next photo. Next up is this iconic photo of the Ruskin Heights F5 tornado in 1957. This was a devastating tornado, a very deadly tornado, and one of the more significant Kansas City metro area tornadoes in history.
While Kansas City suburbs dig out in the wake of disaster, tornadoes spawned in record numbers, and torrential rains continue to ravage the Midwest. The storms that struck here in Missouri almost without warning have left a trail of havoc from Indiana, south and west through Texas.
It originally touched down around 7:15 p.m. in Kansas near the town of Homewood. It then traveled to the northeast, going past Spring Hill, where it would enter the suburb of Ruskin Heights. In Ruskin Heights, major damage would occur. I mean, some of these photos of the suburbs that were destroyed by this tornado are absolutely devastating. I mean, look at all the damage. The tornado lasted over an hour and a half and would end up claiming the lives of 44 individuals. When surveying the damage, peak wind speeds were estimated to be over 260 miles per hour. Truly a powerful tornado, and one of the worst in Missouri's history. But let's go back to this very eerie, iconic photo. Now, this photo was taken early in the tornado's lifespan when it was still in Kansas, near the town of Spring Hill. Obviously, the fact that it's a very old photo, that it looks black and white, really adds to the eeriness of it. This barn also kind of a creepy vibe, I don't know. The photo was captured by Reverend Robert Alexander, who took it from the porch of the Methodist Church. This isn't the only iconic photo to be taken near a Methodist church. That one photo in Topeka was also taken at a Methodist church. So if you want to see a tornado, well, you don't want to see a tornado, you want to seek shelter, but if you want to capture some iconic photos, go to the Methodist church during a tornado. Don't seek shelter. Okay, forget what I said. It was specifically taken at the parsonage of the church, and the photographer was looking north. So let's go ahead and find the Methodist church in Spring Hill to see if we can kind of figure out where this tornado photo was captured. All right, I'm not exactly sure. Here's the church here. Don't know where the parsonage would be. I would assume it would be this, because it's kind of same brick right next to the church. Maybe? Of course, it was facing north and there's trees everywhere. Let me tell you, I've seen enough photos of tornadoes in Topeka, and we could talk about Ruskin Heights, for example, or here, or that other photo from earlier in North Dakota. And there's a lot more trees, at least in residential areas, than there used to be. So we know the photo was facing north. Dang, it would be really sweet to find this actual barn house looking thing right here. I'm not gonna hold my breath that we're gonna find that, but so if we go back to the description, it says the north porch of the parsonage, which implies that there were multiple porches of the parsonage, and this house right here, this building right here next to the Methodist church, does seem to have a north porch. All right, I couldn't quite get back there, but here's me zooming in on the backyard. I kind of feel like a creep zooming in on this backyard. See this building right here? That building could be this building. Similar vibes. It looks kind of white. It's got a little window. I don't know for sure, but this photo, definitely one of the creepiest of all time. Next up, another famous tornado photo, and that is the 1981 New Cordell, Oklahoma F2 tornado photo. Is it creepy? Yeah, it's kind of creepy. It's the weird. Anything that's looking ropey and weird is going to have a creepy vibe to it. This tornado has been nicknamed the Wizard of Oz tornado because apparently the people who were chasing this tornado said it was very similar to the tornado featured in The Wizard of Oz. And yeah, it is. It's quite ropey. Definitely very similar. Now, this was a perfect tornado. It happened out in the middle of the field. There were no casualties. There were no injuries. I don't think there was any damage. It was just a great tornado experience. And there's also video of this tornado. Check it out. This photo was taken by storm chasers part of the National Severe Storms Laboratory. So these were official storm chasers before it was cool. Apparently it was taken on the northwest side of town, maybe somewhere in this area. Not exactly sure. We're moving on to the March 23rd, 1913 Easter Sunday Omaha F4 tornado. Could have been an F5, not 100% sure because it was 100 plus years ago. So the official rating is F4, but it's likely was probably even an F5. So the March 23rd, 1913 Omaha tornado was one of the most devastating tornadoes in U.S. history. It was seriously a tragic and terrible event. It occurred around 6 p.m. in the evening, and it went right through the heart of Omaha. People compared the sound of the tornado to a rush of water, like a waterfall just going through the center of the city. It originally started as a typical cone shape, but it then transformed into a wedge. It started over in the southwest part of the city. It then destroyed several large mansions in a more affluent neighborhood, but then as it crossed into the north part of town, it entered into some lighter commercial districts where it destroyed several brick buildings. This is where the majority of fatalities occurred. Dozens of people lost their lives within this area. Also within this area was a streetcar where several people actually survived by hitting the floor. The tornado then struck the edge of downtown, crossed the Missouri River, and entered into Iowa, where it killed even more individuals. Overall, 103 people died from this tornado alone. On top of the 103 fatalities, there were also 350 injuries, making it one of the most tragic tornado events of all time. In terms of scary images, there's a couple. There's this one, which is kind of the most famous tornado photo associated with this specific tornado, but there's also this one. Now, this one is, to me, slightly more eerie. The tornado just looks a little creepier in this image. Now, we don't know where the location is of this photo, but we do know the location of this photo. It was apparently taken at the intersection of 38th and Arbor. So I've been looking around for the intersection of Arbor Street and 38th, and I got this South 38th Ave and Arbor Street right here. And if you zoom out a little bit, it does kind of seem to be within the path of the tornado, because the tornado kind of went through here. Anyway, did I already lose it? Okay, here it is. So the photo apparently was taken like right here. Alright, not right here, but like looking this way, kind of. Let's see here, looking this way. Obviously it looks exactly the same. There used to be like a big mansion over here. What happened to that? What is this? Yeah, obviously changed quite a bit. There's been a lot of kind of close calls with Omaha recently. I mean, Omaha's it's in a dangerous tornado-prone area. So hopefully Omaha and the surrounding area can stay safe in the near future. Moving on to an older photo, the May 30th, 1899 Kingsley, Iowa tornado. Now this photo definitely is a bit eerie. Definitely pretty sketch looking, pretty scary. I don't know. There really isn't too much known about this tornado, and I highly doubt we're going to be able to find the location. According to a few sources, this tornado formed around 7:45 in the evening. It then destroyed several barns and ended up killing one individual. Now, this image is also the first verified photo of a tornado in the state of Iowa. And finding its location is not going to be easy. Hopping onto Google Maps here in Kingsley. It's kind of a small town, so maybe there is hope that we can find Supplin. Probably not. But see these buildings right here? A couple of chimneys that maybe we can look for. I really don't think we're going to find this. Yeah, there's no way that I'm going to find the location of this photo. So we're going to move on to the next image. We're moving even further back in time to the 1895 Grafton, North Dakota tornado. Now, it's not 100% verified that this picture was taken in Grafton, North Dakota. It's still a little bit of a tornado mystery. However, this tornado, kind of creepy looking. It's a weird shape. What is that, a cone? Is that a stovepipe? It's a mix. It's pretty detailed too. You can actually see some of the details in the clouds, which is pretty nice. A great image indeed, and North Dakota, for some reason, has a lot of early tornado photos for how sparsely populated it was. We have the Antler, North Dakota image from earlier, and we have this. And like I said, since it has that church, for some reason churches make the pictures a little scarier. Speaking of which, this church might be the clue we need to know to figure out whether or not this image truly was taken in Grafton, North Dakota. So I did a little Google search for Grafton, North Dakota, 1890s, and whoa, what is this? This church looks eerily familiar. After comparing the two images several times, clearly this is a different church. I mean, this church only has one steeple, so they're very different. Here are some other older churches in Grafton, North Dakota, but nothing quite matches up, not yet. I found this panoramic view of Grafton, and there's like so many churches. There's this church, there's this church, there's this church. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I do not think that this is Grafton, North Dakota, because when you look at this photo of Grafton, North Dakota, it's a big town. And then you look at this photo of the tornado, and this is like a small, really small town. Like barely anything. Yeah, this is just going to be too hard to find. But definitely a very cool image. If anyone has any idea where this image was taken, please let me know. The next image is a classic tornado image. In fact, it's the very first tornado photo ever taken. It was taken on April 26, 1884, near Garnett, Kansas. Is it an eerie photo? Yeah, it's pretty eerie. Now, thankfully, this specific tornado was way out in the countryside and it did hardly any damage. Just like the last photo from North Dakota, we also have a church in this image. Churches and tornadoes in the 1800s make terrifying images. Just saying. So this image is interesting because the tornado actually looks like it's roping out, looks very weak. But I do think finding this location is going to be pretty easy because of this church. So here's what we know about this photo, all right? It was towards the end of its life cycle. It was likely roping out, right here. And we know that the tornado occurred to the west-northwest of Garnett, Kansas, over here. So I was trying to find this church right here. And the problem is all the churches, today at least, are on the wrong side of the street. They're on the south side of town. Yeah, so at first I thought maybe it was the Catholic Church. But it's really bugging me. I spent quite a while. I mean, these buildings are pretty prominent in here. I feel like someone should know exactly where this photo was taken. I thought this was going to be easy to find. I even went, there's so many postcards of different churches in Garnett, Kansas, and there's so many, super close ones, but I've had no luck. Oh my gosh, so we have an update. So someone on Facebook I saw said that they think it was taken near 5th and Walnut at the Presbyterian Church. So here I am, and look at this. Look at this church. I mean, clearly it's a little bit different than it used to be, but that is totally, this could actually be the location. The reason why I couldn't find it is this is not a church anymore. It's something else. I don't know, some sort of theater. But yeah, I think this is it. Scratch that, another update. I just realized that we are facing the wrong direction. We're facing east. So if you turn around, this is what I actually think is the real location of the photo. I think this Baptist church here was, don't mind the thunder, it's storming as I record this. I think this Baptist church here once looked like this way back in the day. And this is why I think this, because if you go down the road a little bit, there's this house right here. And this house, I mean, see how the roof kind of looks like that? And in this photo, I think that's this house in the photo right here. So I actually think that this is the real location of the photo. Okay. Now, before we get to the last photo, I know some of you are going to be mentioning the dead man walking at Gerald, Texas F5 tornado. That seems to show a figure walking from the sky, kind of like a tornado monster. I've talked so much about that photo that I decided not to include it on today's list, but here's a little bonus shout out to that photo. Finally, we're going to end this video with what I think might be the scariest tornado image out of all the ones that we've seen so far today. It's actually a lot more recent than a lot of the 100-year-old photos, and that is the April 2nd, 1956 Saugatuck, Michigan tornado. Look at this image right here. Holy cow. This was actually a pretty strong tornado as well. It was actually rated as an F4. It occurred around 5:45 p.m. in the evening. Thankfully, there were no fatalities, but there were 7 injuries. There's actually several creepy photos of this tornado. It just had an eerie shape to it. This tornado was part of a large tornado outbreak that occurred between April 2nd and April 3rd in 1956. Overall, nearly 40 people would lose their lives, and almost 800 would be injured. While this tornado does look really eerie and kind of creepy and pretty surreal, it wasn't the worst tornado from that outbreak. There was actually a recorded F5, and that is the Veersland, Hudsonville, Standall, Grand Rapids, Comstock Park, Trufant, Michigan F5 that claimed 18 lives. It's estimated that this specific tornado had wind speeds over 260 miles per hour. But yes, that concludes today's video. What images would you have included on today's list? What super old, eerie tornado photos just give you creepy vibes? I'd like to know in the comments. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.